Welcome back to Best Available Podcast. This is episode 40, May 10th, 2021. We've been doing this for 40 weeks. Well, I guess not really 40 weeks, almost 40 weeks. We've done a couple double weeks in there. But now we'd like to come out and say that we are a hero podcast officially. I was a hero about a week and a half ago, and now Matt is officially a hero. So we are a hero podcast, which is excellent news. Matt, you got your second dose today. So far, how have you been feeling?
Feeling all right. I feel like with most people, it just kind of hits you out of nowhere, the symptoms or the side effects, which should not prevent anyone from getting it. I'm just going to take it and then move on with my day. We were heroes the first shot, though, Ryan. This makes us superheroes, I feel like. Now we're superheroes, so if you see me, if you're watching the video version on YouTube, Best Available Player YouTube channel, if you see me moving my arm around a little bit, just trying to avoid that soreness and everything. So, feeling all right. Nothing to complain about yet.
Just gotta stay hydrated as much as possible. That's a big thing, although we should be doing that anyway. We should be drinking a lot of water every day. So we're going to hop into it here. We're going to talk about, we got some fun stuff to talk about today. I want to start with the biggest news of the day, not the horse that took drugs, but we're going to start with Tim Tebow is back in the National Football League for the first time since 2015 when he was part of the preseason roster with the Philadelphia Eagles. Tebow is apparently going to convert to tight end with the Jacksonville Jaguars under Urban Meyer. I was a very, very big Tebow guy. College-wise, he was one of the most electrifying college athletes of our time, and you can make the case of anybody's time. The things he did at Florida were really fun to watch. I've really become anti-Tebow recently. I was even pro-Tebow when he was with the Mets. I said, hey, listen, this is a cool thing for him to try. I think given all the circumstances, he's actually doing pretty damn well. This is where I got to draw the line. This I know in his head he's not doing this for attention, but that's just what it seems like from the outside. Like this should have been something that he did 10 years ago. If he wanted to convert to a tight end, it should have been something that he did way longer. Like, this is ridiculous at this point. Like, this guy just has so many connections to where he can just really do whatever he wants. Like, it pisses me off a little bit, honestly.
Yeah, so this is a big win for the it's not what you know, it's who you know crowd. We hear that all the time in our field. I'm sure it's the same wherever you go or whatever field you work in. Big win for those guys today. Listen, it's just a joke. Like I said this in our group chat. Imagine being an actual NFL tight end with actual skills at the tight end position and not being able to find a job because he's taken up a roster spot. Now, whether he makes it through training camp is another thing, right, Ryan? I mean, we see a lot of these kind of contracts with a lot of these older guys, not to mention the fact that he's, 33 or something? He's not young. So I don't really know what this does for the team. It's kind of a joke. I know I was probably more anti-Tebow for the baseball thing than you were. I think we talked about it on the radio, but I don't know. I think he's very good at what he does on TV. I think he's a very good college football analyst, and I think that's what he should do because he will have a very long and good career doing that.
I think, well, that's the thing that pisses me off, too. Like, he knows that he'll always have that in the back pocket. Like, ESPN's always going to bring him back in the fall if he's not doing anything else to cover SEC games. And I agree with you. He's very good. He's very well-spoken. He makes great points as an analyst on TV. But this entire thing, like, I have a Tebow jersey in one of those drawers. Like, I was a very big Tebow guy, but now I'm actively rooting against him. I'm really crossing my fingers that he does not make the 53-man roster for the Jaguars. Like, I agree. Like, you said it best. This is just a complete joke that this guy who hasn't played football, who's gotten his contract terminated, I want to see here, he's got his contract terminated 3 times in the NFL. There were very few people, if any, that get their contract terminated 3 times and yet somehow get another chance in the NFL. It's so stupid. Like, I hate this guy so much. Like, he's making me hate him, which at a time seemed really difficult to do.
Well, before we move on from the conversation, I do want to kind of turn it to Urban Meyer. But before we do that, because I think this speaks a lot about Urban Meyer and his tenure in Jacksonville of what it's going to look like. But listen, he's such a nice guy, right? I mean, Tim Tebow's like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, but you got to give him credit for continuing to chase his dreams. I want to preface by saying that, like, it's a really good role model kind of thing to where you're not going to give up. But at the same time, it kind of makes a mockery of this whole system. If I'm like a undrafted rookie tight end even, Ryan, right? I mean, seeing this guy get handed a job and he hasn't been on the field for a snap since 2015, right? And that's like a preseason game. So, I don't know. For me, this speaks more, not so much to Tim Tebow, Ryan, but to Urban Meyer. And then he's already drawing so much criticism, and the Jaguars haven't even played a game yet.
I get the chasing your dreams thing. The way I look at it, the baseball thing, that was him chasing a dream. Like, I give him that. I just don't think this is chasing a dream at this point. Like, this is just him calling his longtime pal Urban and saying, hey, coach, I hope you're doing well. Glad to see that you moved a few houses down from me. We're kind of neighbors now. Oh, by the way, I really want to be a tight end now. Do you think you got a roster spot? Sure, Tim. No matter what, there's always a spot for you on my team. Like, I do agree. If Urban wasn't there, none of this happens. But I think we talked about it on the podcast when it happened. I was not a fan of Urban going to Jacksonville to begin with. I'm really not a fan of him now, especially with all the stuff that's come out recently about who he was, what he overlooked his time as a college coach at Ohio State. And now he's bringing guys in that were apparently part of what he overlooked, guys that really probably shouldn't be working in the sport. I really want to like Jacksonville as a team. I mean, they have Trevor Lawrence, they have some good guys on that roster, but it's the same thing with Tebow. Now I'm almost forced to root against them because of everything Urban stands for.
Well, I forget where I heard this or read this. I mean, people were comparing the transition from college to the NFL, and I think it's different. There's college coaches that have had some success doing it on the basketball side. The NFL, it's kind of a little bit harder to do, right? We're putting those guys under such a magnifying glass, right? I mean, Cliff's doing it right now. I'm trying to think of other recent examples. Matt Rule, I think, is going to be an exception to this, right? Because we talked about this either last week or 2 weeks ago. I think Matt Rule's doing a fantastic job in Carolina, but these guys are under such a microscope, whether it be in the NBA or the NFL. These guys that come over and do this. And people, I forget where I said or heard this, but the way he coached at Ohio State and Florida is kind of like, I'm here for you, whatever you need. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, his style of coaching is not, it's more of like a me and then you guys kind of thing. It wasn't like we're all in this together. We're all have this common goal. It's kind of a bad way of recapping what I heard, but regardless, his style, people say, is not going to translate. And I would believe that. I really would. I think that's why Nick Saban didn't last long either.
I think you make a good point. There's some college coaches that they know what it takes to make the jump. I'd go so far as to say that even Chip Kelly was one of the guys that I know ultimately didn't work out, but like I still feel like he kind of knew what it was going to take. It just ultimately didn't pan out. But Urban, he doesn't. I think the Saban comparison's a good one. He doesn't strike me as someone that's going to succeed in the NFL. Like some guys are really good at college, at the college level. One of the greatest. That's cool. Like that's a good accolade to have. But I don't know. It's just I feel like there are so many better options, and we're going backwards back to when he was hired in like January, February. It's just I feel like there's so many better options that this team could have gone with to set a good positive culture, bring good people in at all levels of the coaching staff, bring in good players, and yet they brought in this guy. Like I do kind of get it. It's some standpoint, like a veteran guy, he's gonna be what this organization apparently needs, but I can't see this working out at all. Like this Tebow thing, I think was the final straw. There was no reason to do this. No reason at all for him to bring Tebow in.
I think a lot of the reason why college coaches don't succeed at the professional level is because you can't come at it like a familial or like father figure, right? I mean, these guys are all professionals. You're all making money to do this, right? And I don't know. I feel like some guys don't want to change their approach. And then I hate to bring up Matt Rule again, but you see videos of him with that guy they drafted, right? And he thought he was like an undrafted. Like he just seems more relatable. It's not kind of like a coach and players. It's kind of just like everyone in it together. And you take one look at Urban Meyer, right? And listen, he could come out and shock us, but like you look at him and like, this is not going to work. Like it's not. Like it's not college football anymore. I don't care how many young guys you have and, oh, you're going to ease in your rookie quarterback. I don't buy that either, Ryan, right? I mean, if that's the only reason they went out and got a college coach to coach in the pros for their rookie quarterback who's a professional now, I think that's just a dumb reason. Like, if that's the reason why they hired Urban Meyer, then there's a lot of other people that are going to be at fault for this as opposed to just him.
I hope that Trevor Lawrence succeeds. As I said, there's some other good players on that roster that I like a lot. I hope they succeed. I think that they're going to end up getting stagnated because Jaguars ownership and front office felt that Urban was the guy to bring in. I had an issue with it at the time. I had an issue with it when he brought in that strength coach who was accused of the racist stuff, the bullying stuff, and now the Tebow thing. It's not a good start for him 6 months in. Like, I feel like if you're a new head coach in the NFL, maybe you try to take it a little slowly. Maybe you try to, like, at least try to maintain a positive image, but he hasn't even been able to do that. Listen, as you said, we could be wrong. We've been wrong before. They could go 10-7 this year, 11-6, which feels really weird to say.
But Ryan, I said this like a couple weeks into the season last year. That roster at the time, you make a couple moves, you bring in Trevor, and that's like a 7-win team right there. I was big on that take, but a big part of it was coaching, right? And I don't know if you would agree with me or go that far to give them 7, maybe in like a really, really good situation, 8 wins, but I feel like the talent's there. I agree with you. I would go as far to say more than just a couple guys, and it's just, a couple years ago was they couldn't pay everyone, right? That one really good team, that really good defense, they couldn't pay everyone. This time, it's more the coaching. Are you going to be able to coach all this good young talent that you've accumulated? I don't know. You feel bad for those fans, right? Because they've had one good year basically since Mark Brunell was there. So that's like over basically 2 decades. You feel bad for them, but at the same time, the organization's been doing it to himself. You hang on to, all these head coaches longer than they should. Then you bring in a college coach. I don't know. There were so many other good options. One of them didn't even get a job. He's still in Kansas City. Imagine Bieniemy with Lawrence, the wide receivers they have there, Etienne. Imagine what he would do with that team. That's an 8-win team. So the fact that Urban Meyer is there just frustrates me because Bieniemy, I thought, should be a head coach.
If it wasn't for the Texans, they would clearly be the biggest joke in the division, but for right now, Houston kind of holds that mantle, so good for Jacksonville. Now they're only the second biggest laughingstock in that division. We'll see. We'll follow the Tebow thing during the preseason, during training camp. I can't imagine he's going to make the team. There's no way. There's too many. I think he made a good point back when we started talking about Tebow. He's 33. He's never played the position before. I just find it very hard to believe that this is when he's going to turn it around. If he wanted to do this, it should have been after the Jets thing. That's when he should have done it, not now. Like, this is ridiculous. And
I think you see in baseball, some guys switch positions, right? They'll move to, like, first base, or like when some guys start to break down or slow down, they'll move them to like DH or whatever, throw them at first base. But I feel like it's different a little bit because at least they were continuously playing the sport and then they had the time to move over, right? When you see a guy change positions in the NFL, again, they usually are continuously playing the position, right? My biggest example is a guy who played at Jacksonville, Denard Robinson, right? Quarterback, changed over. I think he switched to running back or wide receiver, played for a couple of years. Terrell Pryor's another example, but Tebow stopped. He stopped playing the sport, played another sport, and then just sat and did TV analyst, which again, I would imagine he's making more money from ESPN, Ryan, than what he would be making playing football, subjecting his body to everything that football brings, right? So that's a questionable move in itself. I mean, I would love to just sit on, my chair and talk about Clemson and Alabama all day. I think that's a great job. But again, switching positions, you see it in football, you see it in baseball, but this guy literally stopped for a long period of time, and I think that's why it's a bigger deal than other players doing it.
You brought up baseball. I want to say, actually, you talk about moving positions. Like, even like a Rick Ankiel, who went from a pitcher to he decided to switch to becoming an outfielder. At least, as you kind of alluded to, at least he was still actively involved in the game. I think that's what rubs me the wrong way too. Like, Tebow's been gone for. I was going to be a freshman in college the last time Tebow was in the NFL, and now I graduated in 2019. It's 2021. Like that. Like, just let it go. Like, you did things on the athletic level that a lot of people can only dream of. Just stop. Just do what you're good at on TV. Enjoy your life. No need for any of this.
Well, remember, too, the NFL tight end is a lot different in 2021 than it was in 2015. A lot different what we expect out of tight ends. I mean, I'm going to exclude Kyle Pitts because he's just a crazy athlete. But the average, you look at like Jonnu Smith or Evan Ingram, or like what we expect out of our tight ends to catch balls, run out, make some great, catches, some great routes, and also block. I've never seen Tim Tebow run a route or do a chip block, then run a route. So, like, the tight end position has changed so much dramatically, really, since, if you want to date back to basically when Gronk came onto the Patriots in, like, 2010, whatever year it was. Over this past decade plus, it's really changed, and even more so in the past 5 years, because we've seen a lot more creative young minds on the offensive side of the ball utilize them in different ways. So I don't know, like, we've never seen him play tight end. I feel like we have to expect nothing and just be surprised with whatever happens. But hey, good for him, right? I mean, he's doing something, but I'm being nice, Ryan.
I'm going to be not nice. I'm going to say not good for him. I'll take the other side. Not good for him. Stop doing this, please. Somebody that shouldn't stop what they're doing, though, Matt, is Connor McDavid. We don't talk about hockey a lot. Part of the reason is I don't think that I can hold a good enough conversation about it other than, wow, that guy's really good. He looked good out on the ice, and he's scoring. Good for him. There's a lot of other smarter people that can talk about it much better than I can. But I do think that we need to make a point about Connor McDavid because he's doing something that's very remarkable. In 53 games, he reached the 100-point mark. I think he was, if he wasn't the fastest, he was one of the fastest to ever reach that mark, the 100-point mark. Right now, he's got 32 goals, 68 assists on the season. He will win the MVP award, the Hart Trophy. I'm sorry to hockey fans out there. If he doesn't, it's a sham. I wanted to talk about this for two reasons. One, this is really impressive. And two, it's so impressive, but it doesn't seem like enough people are talking about it. So I feel like it kind of comes back to that argument we've heard from baseball where the NHL doesn't know how to market their players. He's having a historical season, and it doesn't seem like it's getting talked about at all unless you're like a hardcore hockey fan. Yeah,
well, first off, I want to preface by saying he's as old as us. So he's doing this, and he's been in the league for 6 years, 7 years? I mean, basically since we started college, right?
Yep.
So there's that. So he's not going anywhere. He's doing this literally at our age, already has 6 years or whatever underneath his belt, and he's going to be around for a long time. Ryan, Connor McDavid is the Mike Trout of the National Hockey League. Nobody knows who he is. Generational player. Could go down as one of the better ones, not only of his generation, but depending on where he does it and how he does it, of all time, right? I mean, this is like Wayne Gretzky numbers that he's doing. And for those who don't really know hockey, and I'm a casual hockey guy, 100 points in 53 games is ridiculous, or however many games it was. I mean, it's crazy. He's the Mike Trout of hockey. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody would be able to pick him out on the street, at least in America, right? Because Canada, he would be recognized. But I don't know if it's, the fact that he plays for Edmonton, or, as you said, maybe they don't market players well. But I think there's a lot of parallels between those two guys. Because Mike Trout could walk outside of Philadelphia, Ryan, in maybe parts of LA, nobody knows who Mike Trout is. So I think they're both very similar guys.
I just in case I know there's people out there that listen to our podcast that aren't the biggest hockey fans. He has 100 points. The next closest, coincidentally, is his teammate Leon Draisaitl, who has 79. 79 that's a good number to be at right now, considering the shortened season, everything else going on. That's a really high number. And McDavid has 21 more points than he does, which is just it's hard to believe. It's hard to wrap your mind around. And people are going to use the same argument they use for Trout, that personality-wise, he's pretty boring. And listen, I get that. Like, you could make the argument that some of it is on the player to kind of market yourself, but at the same time, when you're a generational talent like this, I just feel like you need to the NHL. I really think it's more in the NHL. Like, they're not pushing him enough. I think part of it is he plays in Edmonton. Part of it is people are kind of just shamming away the North Division this year because there's not a lot of defense there. It's all the Canadian teams. So people are like, whatever. He's not playing he's not really going up against great competition. But still, this is probably going to be one of the best athletes we'll see in our lifetimes. And not enough people know. I'm not going to say not enough people are watching. Not enough people know who he is outside of hockey circles.
Well, as someone who has a Connor McDavid jersey, I am a number one Connor McDavid supporter. Have been for a while. Had that since we were in college. You need to get that man out of Edmonton if he ever wants to win a cup or have even, have the opportunity to play in one. I don't want to bash Edmonton, but think about it like this, Ryan. You're playing at 9 or 10 o'clock almost every night, right? You're playing, as you said, against weaker competition. In a non-COVID year, it's still late at night, playing for a franchise that was a premier franchise just before most of the people watching hockey were old enough to comprehend it, right? So it kind of, you almost want him to be like a Sidney Crosby, like a hateable guy, because everyone knows Sidney Crosby, or more people at least know. And I don't mean this as a disrespect to hockey, but it's much more of a niche sport in America as opposed to what it is in Canada, right? I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. So I don't think we can really compare it to Major League Baseball, which is a much more widely watched, widely watched sport in this country. But at the same time, he should be on the level in terms of notoriety as like Ovechkin, Crosby, and he's just not.
I will say, so I got the stat here just so we can compare McDavid. This is from an article in the New York Times by Shauna Richer. Good attribution by me. Only 4 times, this is a direct quote, only 4 times has a player reached 100 points in fewer games in the past 30 years, and no one has done it in 25 years. Mario Lemieux, this is mind-blowing in and of itself, accomplished the feat twice in 38 games, which is crazy. Of course, the game was a lot different back then than it is today. In 92-93 and 95-96, that's when Lemieux was able to do it. Gretzky did it in 50 games in 90-91, and Jagr reached it in 52 games in 95-96. That's I don't have to tell you how good a company that is. If you're not a hockey fan, you still know who Wayne Gretzky is. You probably know who Mario Lemieux is. You've probably heard that name before. And Jagr, he's spanned multiple generational gaps, so you probably know who he is. It just doesn't feel the same with McDavid, which is weird. It's just, I feel like he deserves. You made a great analogy that he's the Mike Trout of the NHL. Like, he deserves so much more praise than he actually gets. I know he probably doesn't care, but I just, as a hockey fan, I wish that he would get more recognition for what he's doing on the ice.
Well, it's also hard to, and I said this in my last point, that it's just hockey's different in America, right? I mean, I bet if we went on and watched the Canadian sports networks, right? What is it, like TSN or CBC or something? Like, I bet he does a lot more commercials up there, right? And I'm not basing notoriety based off of commercials, but we talked about it with Mike Trout, I guess a couple months ago. I'm sure in Canada he does a lot more, right? Because this, more so than baseball, because Trout plays in America, and that's where his team's located too, and there's only one non-American team for baseball. For hockey, it's spanning multiple countries, very much in terms of distance as well, east to west coast. And it's still kind of, I don't want to say a minor sport, but again, it doesn't get as much notoriety as opposed to other sports. So in American kind of, sports culture, it's going to be hard for him to gain that momentum. But at the same time, you ask, well, why can't Trout do it? I guess he has more of an inside track. I don't really have the answer to that question either. But you mentioned it. This guy's going to be an all-time great. Maybe if he goes to a bigger market, even if he went to Toronto, right, Ryan? Or like a bigger Canadian market team, maybe things are different. But it's kind of cool to see him do it where Gretzky did it. That's a cool little thing to see. But yeah, I don't really have the answer to those questions, but it's just interesting. It kind of, because you see maybe this new NHL TV deal will help boost it a little bit. You and I talked about it with all the streaming services. We think is going to have the reverse effect, but we'll see. He's definitely the best player in the league this season, though, for sure.
The National Hockey League playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, are starting soon. I'd say there's not a set date this year, I don't think, because of all the COVID things. Like the Central Division finishes on May 10th. The North Division doesn't finish until May 19th. So apparently some divisions are going to start the playoffs before other divisions, which is weird to think about. But I urge you, I talk about all the time, stuff that people should watch. You should be watching the Stanley Cup playoffs regardless because it's a lot of fun. But definitely watch it to see Connor McDavid. The Oilers have already clinched. They're going to be in the playoffs out of the North Division. So definitely take a chance. Even if it's just one game, just watch what he does out there. It's a lot of fun. It's very graceful. Watch Stanley Cup hockey.
Well, they'll be looking to bounce back. Didn't they lose to Arizona or something? Didn't they have a disappointing exit in the bubble last year? I mean, I feel like they were pretty good last season as well. I see you looking it up right now. I think it was Arizona. Could be wrong.
It says they didn't make the playoffs last year.
Well, they didn't. Remember, it was those qualifier
that's
best
right.
of 5. So I think they lost to Arizona, and that's how the Coyotes got in. I'm almost positive. So they're going to look to bounce back from that. And again, I could be wrong, but I know they lost.
I was looking at it says lost NHL. Yeah, okay. Lost NHL qualifying round. I was looking at this year. But yeah, they haven't gotten past the second round since 05-06. I mean, they're due. Like, if they were ever going to do it, it seems like this would probably be the best year, but I don't know. Toronto looks pretty good. I wouldn't bet against Toronto. That's about all the hockey analysis you're going to get out of me. I can't tell you why I wouldn't bet against Toronto, but I probably wouldn't bet against Toronto.
Well, people say that every year, and then they lose in 6 games to the Bruins, but this year, or 7 games, depending on the series. This year, they won't have to, so we'll see them go deeper into the playoffs than usual. So yeah, that's our hockey analysis. I will say hockey is better when a Canadian team is in the Stanley Cup final. We need to make that happen again. I mean, here's my brain, the gears turning, Ryan. Were the Canucks the last team to do that? Has it been that long since 2011? Has there been a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup final since Vancouver?
No, they were the last ones.
2011. And do you remember how crazy that series was? Luongo and the Sedin twins and all the stuff that happened when they lost in Game 7 at home. Like, Canada's due. And it makes it even more... I mean, hopefully it kind of stinks because the fans, it's going to be tough to get a lot of people in to watch those games, but still, That's when hockey is at its finest.
Watch the playoffs this year. Most of the spots are already clinched. I'm looking at the standings now. There's only one that hasn't been fully settled yet, although Montreal is likely going to end up getting in as the final playoff team in the North. The only reason they haven't clinched is Calgary's only played 52 games, so I think by the math, they could still, I don't know, they're not going to get in, whatever. But there's great teams in the playoffs this year. You have Pittsburgh, Washington, Boston, and the New York Islanders. They're the four most deserving teams out of the East, definitely, for sure. You got Toronto and Edmonton. That'll be fun. Winnipeg always puts up a good fight. Carolina has been really fun to watch this year, as has Florida. Nobody expected Florida to be as good as they were. Tampa Bay right now is the 3 seed in the Central, which is crazy. And then you have Nashville, who made a late run. Vegas is going to be a lot of fun to watch. So is Colorado. There's a lot of this is going to be a fun year to watch. It's a shame that we're still in pandemic times, so the arenas won't be as buzzing. But watch the Stanley Cup playoffs. Some people would say that they're the best playoffs in any sport. I would tend to agree. So take some time out of your day and watch that. Watch some hockey.
Be one of the last times we could watch every game, right, on basic TV without having to pay $800 to watch.
That's right. This is the last go-around for NBC, so even more of a reason to watch it.
You're telling me they can't call Doc out of retirement to do this last one before they switch over?
That's the thing. Like, I know they couldn't. Well, actually, I can't say that. Maybe they did know they were out at the time, but it doesn't seem right to just let Doc go out a year before NBC goes away forever. It's Kenny Albert's going to call the finals for ABC, I saw, or TNT, one of them. TNT, I think. One of them. I don't know. But he's going to be the voice of the Stanley Cup Finals for 3 or 4 years of the 7. So how do you feel about that? I like Kenny Albert. I know you're not the biggest Albert guy. I think I like him more than you do.
He's all right. I like John Forsland. I think he is a really good broadcaster. Isn't he the Kraken play-by-play guy now? I know you're a day one Kraken guy, so you should know this.
Yeah, I think they hired him. Yeah.
All right, so at least he'll be doing something once NBC kind of disappears. But yeah, it's all right. I mean, I'm a big Forsland guy though. I thought he did a good job in the bubble last year. So who knows? I mean, it's just. It's going to be hard for me to justify getting all the subscription services unless the Bruins are in the playoffs. Then I do like a free trial and then bounce. But it's just weird. I shouldn't have to pay for a playoff game, right? I mean, is this such a crazy concept? I mean, maybe they won't make you put that behind the paywall for the playoffs, but
I could see them putting the first round behind a paywall.
You shouldn't have to put anything behind the paywall.
Well, no, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, I think it's a stretch when leagues put stuff on like MLB Network and NHL Network, right? I mean, put it on basic cable. Like, if you want to make your game so accessible, just do it. Do it on the basic TV.
I think it's bad. I think the worst version is when baseball decided to put games on YouTube. They used to put games on Facebook. I don't think they're doing that this year, but you can't, well, I'm not even going to get into it. So we're going to be talking about hockey a little bit here over the next few weeks. The expansion draft is about a month and a half away, so that'll be something that we talk about in late June, which will be a lot of fun. The second expansion draft that we've seen in recent years, I'm interested to see how it goes compared to how it went for the Golden Knights. I think the GMs are going to be a little smarter this time around about side deals and who they expose, but we'll wait and see. That'll be exciting. And then we'll have a new NHL team this year, which will be cool. I'm excited for that. Go Kraken. I'm a day one Kraken fan, as Matt said. So we could talk. Moving on with sports that we don't talk about a whole lot. I've talked about golf a little bit. Rory McIlroy is back, I think. He won the Wells Fargo Championship. And I wanted to bring him up because we've talked about Spieth a lot, not just us, but a lot of people have talked about Spieth a lot and how golf is a lot better when he's good. I feel like nobody has said that about Rory, which I think is a little weird. I think people kind of forget. Well, I don't know if they do. It seems like people forget that for a while he was the best golfer in the world. and he was a lot of fun to watch. I know he wasn't as like rah-rah. He wasn't as like he wouldn't show like a ton of emotion, but he was really fun to watch when he was on his game. And then he's just gone through a lot of ups and downs. It doesn't seem like he's ever gotten back to that level. But I hope now is when he does. Like I really hope that this is finally when he's turning things around. His first win in I think 2019 was the last time he won. Probably. I hope he's back. He's fun to watch when he's on.
Yeah, golf's a tough sport to be good at for a long time, and I think that's what makes us appreciate people like Tiger even more, right? I mean, it's just so difficult to be good for an extended period of time. I'm a big Rory guy. I've always been a big Rory guy. I hope he's back as well. I mean, we talked about Spieth, as you said. Golf's in good hands. I've said this take many times before. Golf's in great hands. And Rory's not really going anywhere, but if you could get him back to where he was, I mean, that'll add a lot more intrigue to the sport. I mean, as we're waiting to potentially see Tiger make a comeback or anything else, I also think as a sport, we need to stop. Like, if Tiger wants to just enjoy life, we should just let that happen. Like, we shouldn't be clinging on to Tiger Woods for so long because there's so many, we've talked about, there's so many great guys that are doing it right now. So that's a whole nother topic, but Rory is hopefully back. We said about Jordan, and he became fully back. So maybe we're responsible for the comebacks. We're the comeback podcast.
Yeah, I think Ricky's on the way back. I'm going to put that out into the world, and hopefully I get rewarded for that. I need my guy to come back. I think it'll be good. I think, as you said, golf is just, you have to deal with the ups and downs. Tiger was the outlier. Everybody else, they struggle for years at a time, for the most part, and then they come back. So hopefully this is Rory's time to come back. I've always liked Rory. I got the golf video game that he did with EA that was not very good about, I guess it was 6 years ago now, maybe 7. But, yeah. So that was talking golf. I'm going to say the same thing as I say with hockey. There's a lot of other people that can talk a lot smarter about golf than I can. I just enjoy watching it. I can't really articulate the deeper analysis that you could get from other people, but it's a fun sport to watch. We've talked about this before. Just toss it on a weekend. Watch that white ball go around the course. It's calming. It's a great sport to watch. Great spring and summer sport.
People don't appreciate it. I didn't start fully appreciating it until after I graduated. Especially when we were, working from home or being at home. Like, throw it on like a Thursday. That'll carry you right into everything at 7:00. Right. Same thing in the summer. We need to do a bat golf tournament or mini golf tournament. I think that's more ambitious. Who's great at mini golf? Glenn DeNegris.
Yeah,
we still need to do the Ryan versus Glenn mini golf match.
That's what I'm saying. He hasn't seen me out on the mini golf course. He ain't
no,
ready
you have
for
not
it.
seen Glenn. He is a force of nature out there. It's. I'm telling you,
No.
it took a furious comeback out of me to even make it a competitive match down the back nine when we were in Myrtle Beach.
Nah, see, I feel like it's just like basketball, where it's just like you had to see him that one time to believe
No,
it.
because I played him again. I played him again in May in 2019, and he made me look like a fool out there. Like, he got in my head. He's one of those people, he knows how to get in your head, rattle you a little bit, feeling the pressure when you start getting to the back nine. You're like, oh man, I got to start making up some strokes here, and it's just.
I'm not nervous. I'm not scared of anybody. If Glenn wants to, that wouldn't even be a competition.
Hey, listen, now that I got my second shot, man, we can all convene and we can make this happen. Put it on the site. We'll have Glenn come on. We'll do like a hype week on the podcast. We'll have you guys do like one of those UFC stare downs or whatever, and then we'll get you out there. And I feel like we have to go to Swing Time, though. I feel like that's the only place to go.
It is a nice. I don't want to give any free promotion, but that is. I went back there.
Having a good time.
That same summer, it's a nice mini golf course. Like, there's some that you can tell were just thrown together in like a day, just because somebody wanted to add mini golf. But the Swing Time was well thought out. I like the different twists and turns that they had.
since Glenn hasn't played there, we might have to find a place where neither of you have played. We might have to do
Yeah,
that.
that could be. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Maybe we are we allowed to walk the course the day
No,
before?
no.
No.
I get to walk the course and have fun with Zach, and then you guys get to come the next day, and then
Okay.
me and him will commentate. I'll get I'll get the FC Monmouth camcorder out, and we'll just start going. I'll record the whole match. But yeah, it'll be fun. We got to do that. So yeah, I was talking golf. I feel like we could talk golf about mini golf with you guys. That'll be entertaining. Get some good analysis there.
Yep,
Reading the green, the slopes. So it's my terminology that I got.
I'm throwing out my open challenge to Glenn. We'll see if he's too scared to accept it. I think he doesn't want to see me out on the mini golf course. That just wouldn't end well for anybody. I don't think so. That was talking golf. It's not up for discussion, by the way. I'm not discussing this anymore. I am better at mini golf than Glenn. It's a fact, but it's not up for discussion. I wanted to talk about baseball because somebody on Reddit, Pipeliner_USA, put the batting averages by player position this season, and they're not very good. I think, and then somebody in the comments, bases on balls, 2021 currently has the worst batting average in the history of baseball, beating out the absurdly dominant pitching season of 1968 by 3 points. We said we were going to get into this at some point. I don't like baseball as a product right now. I say this as someone that has watched almost every Phillies game. I went to a Phillies game in person. I work for a minor league team, so I've seen games live there throughout the first week. The product is just piss poor right now, in my opinion. And listen, MLB has the ultimate comeback to any of this, which is our ratings are really good right now, which is great. I'm glad that the ratings are good. I don't think they're going to stay good if something doesn't change. I think that this 3 true outcomes type of approach at the plate, which I advocated for, maybe on the podcast, maybe on a radio show at college. I definitely advocated for it at some point. I do think it is killing the game. That's too drastic. I think it's hurting the game a little bit. This fact of these guys go up there and either they're going to whiff a lot, they're going to miss pitches, they're going to hit a home run, or they walk. I think there's just a better way to go about the game than what's going on right now. It's hard to watch. Like, even my team, who's above 500 right now, somehow, the games are just hard to watch. I don't know. It's not the same sport I watched when I was younger, I don't think.
Well, I think sports itself, and in any sport, it's going to evolve over time. I mean, I'm going to look at this a little bit from a different lens. I mean, not to brag or anything, but my team's the best team in baseball. So been a little bit more entertaining for me through the first month plus. Again, not buying into that. That's a topic for another discussion. So don't worry, Glenn. I don't think the Red Sox are going to win the division. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's tough because I don't want to sound like one of those like baseball purists when it's like, oh, like we can't have anything other than like a single and then like sack bunts and like all the strategy. Like, I don't want to sound like one of those people, but like, I get it. I get that side of it. But at the same time, we live in a very, I want to consolidate this into one term, but I guess I can't. Our society thrives off of highlights, right? And a highlight-driven sports kind of thing to where you don't really are going to sit and watch a full game of the Lakers, but you see LeBron do some crazy dunk. That highlight, you're going to see that all night, then the next day on SportsCenter, and it'll be talked about for a while. And I feel like it's the same thing for baseball. What's the biggest highlight you could get out of baseball? Home run, right? And I feel like, in some ways can influence a guy's contract as well. If you bring that excitement and bring that kind of revenue in with people wanting to buy jerseys and people wanting to see these people play because they're exciting, I get it. I get why batting averages are like that. You're going for the fences. It's the term, right? Swing for the fences. I understand it, but I feel like that's where we're going. We live in a highlight-driven sports society. So that's the easiest thing to clip, right? If you're one of the social media people, and you have that whatever program is up and you're clipping the game, throwing it out there on Twitter, what are you going to clip? The double play or the home run? The home run, right? I mean, I know why you're smiling, because somebody, I forget, was it the Yankees or somebody? They clipped the double play and they were talking about it. And then I guess it had to be the Yankees, right? Because Glenn was like, why are they showing double play, or somebody? But what are you going to show, the double play or the home run? The home run. So I get it. I get why it's like this now.
I want to address a couple things. You said that over time sports evolve. They do. I just feel like baseball, the evolution hasn't been like it has for other sports. Like the NBA right now, in my opinion, is better than it's ever been before. I think the product is better than it has been in the past. I think it's very fun to watch. These guys are athletically gifted. They're doing a lot of fun things. NFL, I think the product's better than it's ever been before. Hockey, I think it's better than it's ever been before. Soccer, I can't really, I mean, you can say whether or not it is. I just feel like baseball, it hasn't gone backwards, but I feel like we've plateaued. I don't know when it happened. I just feel like the evolution of baseball, it didn't keep going up. Like it stagnated. I don't know what the answer is to fix it. I mean, the pace of play, I'm going to say it is an issue. Like I was working a game over the weekend. The first 2 innings took over an hour. Like there's no reason for that to happen. But once again, I don't know how you address it. Like baseball as a sport itself, it's going to take a while. Like there's not much you can do to shorten the game. I don't know what outside of making the games like 7 innings, you're not going to shorten the baseball game. It's just I don't know what the answer is to make this more appealing. Like I think you make a good point. Like whenever somebody brings up arguments like this about how the game just isn't the same, they sound like a purist who get like telling kids to get off their lawn. I'll be portrayed as that because it's really not. Like this isn't like I had so much fun watching baseball when I was younger, and I'm sure part of it is because the Phillies were good, but even like I can barely turn on a game nowadays and like have fun watching it. Like I'll put it on in the background just to have something on in the background like we've talked about before, but like I don't get fully engaged in it like I used to.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's only so much you can do with baseball because it's an untimed sport, right? So the pace of play, you're never going to ever change that unless, like you said, you cut innings out. Like in a timed event, right? Like in basketball, football, hockey, you can do stuff with commercial breaks, halftime. You can do like more of a running clock if it's like the NFL. Even like baseball is going to be stuck with this 3-hour time frame, 3 to 4 hours, regardless. You're not going to change that. I mean, that I will agree with. When you start changing the pace of play, I will get on the get off my lawn side, right, Ryan? Because there's if you don't have the patience for it, then don't watch it. Because baseball is doing just fine with ratings, as you mentioned, and I would love to see. And listen, I'm happy the ratings are great, but you also have to be mindful they're not competing right now with the NHL and NBA playoffs, right? They only had to compete with the NFL draft so far. Usually when April comes around, right, Ryan, you get like the week or two of opening days, baseball's back kind of thing, and then boom, playoffs for 2 sports, right? 2 major sports leagues. And then on top of that, well, Major League Soccer usually starts in March, but this year they started in April. So they're not competing with as much right now. I would like to see what they are mid-June. I'll say mid-June, or even at the beginning of June, because both of those leagues are going to start up this week, playoff-wise, or next week. So we'll see, but I don't know. I feel like it's just the direction of the game. Home runs put, people in seats. They sell jerseys. They get social media interaction. So that's what it does.
Do they though? Like
yeah,
I'm going to sound like such a boomer saying this, but I feel like it's just such a bad thing that like I never thought I'd say this, but like this launch angle stuff and trying to guys to hit the ball higher to hit it out of the park. I think it's just all too much at this point. I never thought I'd say this. Like, you can confirm to people, I have always been very progressive in terms of analytics and sabermetrics and launch angle and exit velocity and all these alphabet stats that you like to say that I cite. Like, I have always been very far on that side. But I'm starting to come back a little bit. I just feel like if we keep telling these people, swing hard for the fences, if you hit 215, it doesn't matter because at least you're hitting home runs, this and that.
You ready for this? I'm on the for people watching right now. Again, best available player on YouTube. Proof. I am on the Major League Baseball Twitter account right now. For highlights, I'm just going off of what highlights I see. Home run. What did McCutcheon do yesterday when he was mic'd up? Did he hit a home run? Was that a home run? I don't know.
He did hit a home run.
Okay,
yes.
Home run. Nomar Garciaparra with 3 home runs. The Padres home runs. So the first 4 highlights, home runs. I see. Okay, now we're getting. Okay, so right there, I saw four home runs within my first couple moves down the screen. So there you go, right? I mean, that's the most clippable thing you can have to put on social media. And that's what gains interactions, is what gains popularity. I mean, it's crazy how much social media influences revenue and everything else and interaction and what teams will do for interactions. So if you want to see the direction of the game, I just showed you. I mean,
I hate that I'm sounding like this. I wish I could see the ball be put into play a little more. I get that it's only been a month and a week, so things can kind of stabilize. I don't think they are going to stabilize. I think that this is the game right now. And I'm going to keep saying it. I don't know how you fix it. Like, people have these quick fixes that they think will like change everything. I don't think banning the shift fixes any of these issues. I mean, they tried to fix the baseball, and that hasn't worked. So now it just went too far back in the other direction, I feel like. I don't know. I just wish that the game aesthetically was more pleasing to watch. I think that's the ultimate point. Like the other sports, even soccer, I'll say a very, 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 very casual soccer fan. It's the beautiful game. Like, people call it the beautiful game for a reason. Every other sport, I feel like, is way more aesthetically pleasing to watch right now than baseball. And I'm going to say it again. MLB is the last laugh because they can just come back and tell me, look at our ratings, people like it. Okay, great, whatever, fine. I'm not one of the people, right? I'm watching it. I'm in those ratings. I don't like what I'm watching.
So I think comparing it to soccer is tough in some ways because soccer, more so than any other sport, is free-flowing continuously, basically from start to finish, from whistle to whistle, right? I mean, hockey is probably the closest similar thing, and somewhat basketball, but that depends on what officiating crew you get at the college, pro, high school, wherever for basketball. So soccer is very free flowing. In baseball, it's very start stop, right? I mean, there's that number out there of the ball actually being put into play. It's like just a couple of minutes of action, right? But at the same time, you're watching like the pitcher melt down right in between pitches. You see the tension kind of build up. You got like if an umpire's like screwing up a call or something, then like I feel like you have to be fully invested in a game to appreciate it, right? And I know it's tough, as you said, like some people appreciate different aspects of it, but I feel like there's a lot more similarities to soccer and to these other sports. It's just in a different presentation. Because soccer, yes, it's free-flowing and you get all that. You still get the same aspects in baseball. It's in between pitches, right? I mean, the perfect example is just watching Adam Ottavino melt down on the mound every other day. I mean, you see that, right? You see it kind of build up. You got runners on base. You're protecting like a 2-run lead. So there's a draw there. I don't know. I feel like comparing it to other sports is kind of tough just because it's so unique. It really is, right? I mean, at least in basketball and hockey with the same amount of, almost the same amount of players out there at a time. Soccer, free flowing, like hockey, like basketball. So I don't know. It's just unique, and I guess that's good. And again, the ratings are great. So
I'm not going to complain about the sport and not give one fix. So I'll propose one fix. And maybe this is something, as I said, this is like multiple episodes worth of stuff that we can talk about. My one fix is to reduce the time in between pitches. I think that would go a long way.
they did that in minor league baseball, didn't they?
No, but I think you have to enforce it.
You can't enforce that though.
Get a fifth umpire. If you take too long, if you walk around the mound, you take too long, it's a ball for the hitter. Or if you're a hitter and you're taking too long adjusting your gloves, it's a strike. Like, just do something. I
also think that adds more intrigue to it too, because you kind of see, I mean, listen, you do have to find a solution to get rid of the slow workers, right? Because that, I think, is an issue. I mean, you and I talked about whatever podcast it was about when Sabathia and Buchholz would go head to head on Sunday Night Baseball, and it would take 8 hours, right? That you do have to eliminate. But at the same time, I feel like in a tense situation, if you need an extra second, you should get it. Like, if you need 20 seconds in between pitches, I mean, sometimes it's just hard to reel in your focus in between pitches. So I don't know how received that would be. I know they tried it in minor league baseball. I don't know if they're still doing that or not, but I don't know how much that really sped up the game. I'm sure there's probably some spreadsheet up in New York that has that answer, but I don't know.
Well, they're trying it this year. In a Class A league on the West Coast, timers in the outfield and between the dugouts will be used to enforce the amount of time taken between pitches, between innings, and during pitching changes. So, fingers crossed, it works out the way that they're hoping for. Listen, that was just I didn't want to complain and then not give like one thing maybe that I would try to fix.
Haven't they done that in the past too?
I feel like they haven't enforced. I feel like they do have the pitch clocks in the stadiums, but I feel like these things are never enforced. Like, I still see batters taking all the time they want at the box. I see the pitchers just taking forever. I feel like they said they were going to do it, and then they just said, well, I mean, what can we do? We can't stop them. If they're going to take forever, that's just what it is. That's the sport. So I don't know.
But look at how hard it is to make a change in professional sports, right? Look at how much, heat they're catching for this extra inning rule. It's like this in other sports. I mean, I feel like there's people who didn't like the 3-on-3 overtime for the NHL, even though I think that was much more widely received than other rule changes. But I'm trying to think, even in the NFL, right, when they moved the extra point back, like it's just so difficult to change anything because these things have been the same for like 100 years. Look at how long it took to put the 3-point line in, right? I mean, it's just...
You know what I would do, too? I would start games an hour earlier. I would start them at 6 and not at 7.
Oh,
I think that might help.
You're competing with the evening news, Ryan.
I don't care. I don't care. I would start the games earlier. If you don't want to adjust the pace of play, then start the games earlier.
Now they're going to lose. Those ratings are going to go straight down, Ryan. I mean, you're competing with the evening news. I'll tell you right now, my parents come home. They're making dinner, right? They put on 6 ABC. Dun, 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 dun. You hear the theme song going. Then 6:30 World News with David Muir comes on, and then at 7, if they want to put on baseball, that's when the Phillies go on the TV for them.
If you're a big enough baseball fan, you're going to watch it.
But that's the thing. You don't want big baseball fans. You want everybody. You want as much people as you possibly can. That's the whole point, right? That's why the national championship starts at 9 o'clock for college, so you could get both coasts.
I'll come out and say it. The sport right now sucks. I'll say it.
I'm just saying you can't, to move start times up, you're going to lose. You're going to cut out a lot of viewers because by that time it's 7 o'clock. It's the 4th inning. What's the point of watching?
Because the game's almost over.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. Some people are still getting their way home from work, too, making dinner.
You can't please everybody. No matter what you do, you're going to piss off somebody.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you want to continue to grow the game and get more people in, I mean, listen, a lot of the times, look at the NFL. They start much later. They'll start at 8 or 9 o'clock. And I know the NFL's different, but at the same time, starting at 7, I think, is fine. I mean, that's what every sport does for the most part.
I disagree. I think it would be fine.
I think if you want to move it up for minor league baseball, that's fine. But for Major League Baseball, I mean, even to get fans in the stands too, Ryan, that's going to be tough. To get people to the game at 6 o'clock. That's why one of the reasons why it's at 7 too, because you could bypass an hour of rush hour traffic too, right? I mean, depending on what city you're in, but I don't know. I just feel like that's just the direction that we're in, and you're trying to appease the people with home runs. Like, that's just where we're going. And listen, I know I'm kind of coming at it from a different perspective just because I've been enjoying baseball a lot more than I expected to this season because of the Red Sox, but I don't know.
They need to do something to fix the sport. I don't know what that is. They need to do something.
I think there's things you could do, right? I mean, I think the number one thing, just slap the DH right in that lineup in the National League. I think that should be number one priority in the offseason.
I still don't think that fixes anything because the DH is, for the most part, they're just sluggers too. I still don't think that fixes. I mean, I agree. I want a universal DH, but I still don't think it fixes anything.
I'm just saying, if you want just a quick change to at least add a little more intrigue to the game, right? I mean, you talked about pitchers hitting. Just put that's the simplest fix that they've been avoiding for almost a decade now, right? I mean, that's probably the first thing I would do. The extra inning rule, I know a lot of people hate it. I don't really care. Like, if that speeds up the game, like you said, I know you like it. It's fine for me. Like, it's a gimmick, but listen, so is 3-on-3 overtime, and people like it. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. This is like a round table topic for like a 5-hour long podcast about how to fix the sport. But that was all that was on the agenda for today. No movie updates this week. We'll see if we'll get back on that train eventually. Don't worry, it's still on the list.
Yeah, you've stalled out with Star Wars. You started out really strong, and then I don't know. I don't think you're vibing with it. I'm telling you. I said the same thing. I think you will vibe better with the Marvel movies. I feel like you would get more wrapped in that than Star Wars.
The movie takes will return at some point in the future. I don't know when, but eventually they will. I want to thank you all for... Oh, you have something to say.
Oh, well, we forgot to mention that we went to the Lego store. Big BAP
yes.
trip, put it on the company card, just... Ryan's joining the hobby. You can't really see it on the video version, but my microphone covers it up. Big Lego guy.
My stuff is back in the corner, that right there. That I'll start working on that stuff next week. That's when I've allotted the time in my weekly agenda. So that'll be something that we'll talk about in the future, is Legos on the podcast. So stay tuned for that. So that's that. Well, thank y'all for listening to this episode of the podcast. Thank you for all the support, and we'll see you guys again next week.